There is a version of you lying dormant, beneath the accumulation of irrational impulses and social contagion. You have been taught to endure things that are beneath the dignity of a rational being. You have played roles to satisfy the opinions of others. You have accepted limits because you mistook the walls of your own fear for the boundaries of reality. You are not stuck because you are weak. You are stuck because you have failed to distinguish between what is within your power and what is not. You have lived too long clinging to outdated desires, old wounds, and expired versions of your own character. In Stoic philosophy, the path to the eudaimonia, the flourishing life, is not a journey of addition, but of subtraction. It is the systematic dismantling of the false beliefs that have kept you from achieving apatheia, the state of internal tranquility. If you wish to live a life of gravity and self-governance, you must release what has been silently limiting your reason. I will provide the instruction on 10 things you must quietly eliminate. This is not a list for the curious. It is a manual for the warrior of the mind. Ask yourself, if you carry the weight of these irrational attachments into the next decade, will you be a master or a slave? If the answer is slave, then your transformation begins now. 1. Eliminate loyalty to the obsolete self. There are moments when you feel as if your life is being pulled backward. This is not bad luck. It is the result of an older version of you that still commands your reflexes, a version you have not yet had the discipline to lay to rest. Stoicism teaches that the self is not a fixed entity, but a continuous act of the will. Yet you remain loyal to identity complexes, clusters of memories and emotional reactions that feel like parts of you, but are merely ghosts. You think you are making choices, but you are merely repeating survival patterns shaped by a past that no longer exists. In a professional setting, you remain silent when truth demands speech. This is not modesty. It is the reflexive shrinking of a child who was once dismissed. You are responding through the memory of who you were, not the awareness of what a rational adult must do. Imagine your old self as a suit of armor that has endured too many battles. It once protected you, but now it is rust and weight. It constricts your chest. Every step forward causes the metal to bite into your skin. Loyalty to your obsolete self creates a paradox. You claim to desire progress, yet you build the barricades with your own hands. The mind seeks the familiar because it mistakes the familiar for safety. But for the Stoic, safety is found only in the prohairesis, the faculty of choice. Clinging to an outdated identity is like clinging to a heavy coat in the heat of summer. It suffocates the soul. Stagnation is a consequence of clinging to an identity that no longer fits the demands of the present. Liberation begins when you acknowledge a cold truth. You are no longer that person. To let them die is not a betrayal. It is the execution of justice for the sake of your future. 2. Eliminate the habit of self-sabotage. There is a force more subtle than nostalgia. It pulls you down the moment the future begins to open. This is self-sabotage, the internal defense mechanism that chooses familiar misery over unfamiliar excellence. Self-sabotage is the ego defending its own smallness. The Stoic understands that humans do not flee from failure. They flee from the responsibility of expansion. You drop what matters most right as it begins to yield fruit. You find logical excuses to decline opportunity. You distrust kindness because peace triggers panic in a mind accustomed to chaos. This trembling is not a sign that you are going the wrong way. It is the sensation of the mind adjusting to a posture it has never practiced. Epictetus taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. When you sabotage your own progress, you are proving that you are a slave to your own subconscious resistance. The habit of self-sabotage hides behind reasonable excuses. It uses your own voice to deceive you. To break this cycle, you do not need more motivation. You need more prosos, constant vigilant attention. You must notice the moment the darkness steps onto the stage. Awareness is the severing point. When you choose to move forward while your palms are sweating, you are rewriting the reflexes of your soul. 3. Eliminate energy-draining attachments. Sometimes the root of your exhaustion is not internal. It comes from relationships that appear familiar but function as parasites upon your vitality. Not everyone who enters your circle brings light. Some arrive with endless needs and a talent for making you shrink. Marcus Aurelius observed that we are made for cooperation, but he also noted that we must protect our inner citadel from those who would breach its peace. Some relationships wear you down. You feel heavy after each conversation. You choose your words carefully, placating and soothing, as if you are carrying the other person's emotions on your back. You are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because you have allowed your energy to be stolen. Many of these attachments begin with misplaced compassion. You think you are helping, but you are merely becoming a life raft for someone who refuses to learn how to swim. Stoicism teaches that your energy is finite. Protecting it is not a luxury. It is a duty to your own life. Look closely at connections where you must apologize for your existence. Life does not ask you to heal every wounded soul. You were not born to be a shelter for the unwilling. A true connection facilitates the expansion of virtue, not the contraction of the spirit. When you step away from those who exhaust you, you make space for the symphonia, the harmony of like-minded, rational individuals. 4. Eliminate the addiction to social approval. There is a profound exhaustion that comes from erasing yourself in exchange for the acceptance of the masses. The Stoics called this the persona, the mask we wear to belong. The shinier the mask, the further the true self is pushed into the shadows. You nod when you want to say no. You smile when you feel the weight of injustice. You pretend to be fine to maintain an image of being agreeable, but what they love is not you. They love the performance. The greatest fear is not the criticism of others. It is the confrontation with the part of yourself you believe is unworthy of respect. This sense of not enough fuels the addiction to approval. Every compliment is a temporary dose of relief that never lasts. You perform more, you try harder, and eventually, you become invisible in your own life. A person who sands down their edges to fit into every puzzle piece eventually loses their original shape. Stoics believe we only truly live when we are brave enough to sacrifice temporary approval for the sake of truth. If the love you receive is based on a mask, then that love is not for you. Breaking free from this addiction is not about becoming cold. It is about reclaiming the right to be different. It is about measuring your worth by internal standards, not the applause of the crowd. 5. Eliminate the need for predictability. Some cannot begin unless they see the entire path. They delay action because they do not understand step 5, even though step 1 is beneath their feet. They call this caution. The Stoic calls it paralysis by desire for control. The need for absolute certainty is a defense mechanism against the unknown. It disguises itself as preparation, but it is actually procrastination rationalized by the intellect. You analyze and calculate, but the more you think, the more anxious you become. No one has a complete map of their life. The map appears only through the movement of your feet. Life does not operate like an equation. It flows like a river. It reveals the way only when you dare to enter the current. The unconscious magnifying of risk is a vestige of old wounds. It convinces you that every new step is dangerous. But the Stoic knows that the only real danger is the loss of one's character. Clarity comes from movement, not from standing still. Like driving at night, you only see a few meters ahead, but those meters are sufficient to complete the journey. Trust in your ability to adapt, not in the predictability of the world. 6. Eliminate the lie of tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow is the soft pillow the ego hands you to keep you from the labor of transformation. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like a plan. In reality, it is a slow poison. Seneca warned, while we wait for life, life passes. You are what you do, not what you say you will do. Your life changes through the actus, the action, not through the propositum, the intention. Procrastination is a shield against the pain of failure or the discomfort of effort. It creates the illusion of infinity, making you believe you have countless days to become who you are meant to be. But the number of your days is fixed and unknown. The solution is not more discipline in the modern sense. It is a confrontation with the reality of time. If you do not act today, you are choosing to stay the same. You are choosing to bury your vitality. Face the question, if I do not do this now, how will my character look in 1 year? The answer is usually diminished. 7. Eliminate the illusion of external success. Even those who move forward can fall into the trap of believing that external success will heal internal lack. This is the pursuit of indifference, money, status, or fame under the delusion that they are goods. Success may take you into a new room, but it cannot replace the mirror you look into every day. If you see a coward in that mirror, no amount of gold will change the reflection. Success does not heal you. It amplifies the cracks in your foundation. Many use busyness as an anesthetic. They work to avoid the silence where the soul speaks. They call it ambition, but it is an escape. The higher you climb on an unstable internal foundation, the more terrified you become of falling. Wholeness does not lie at the destination. It lies in the courage to be exactly who you are. Whether you are in a palace or a prison, stop chasing the shadow of success and start cultivating the substance of virtue. Only then will you be free from the fear of the fall. 8. Eliminate the neglect of the internal vulnerability. Within every Stoic is the memory of the inner child, the part of the psyche that is sensitive and easily wounded. Most adults try to grow by forgetting this part, hoping it will stay quiet. It never stays quiet. It simply learns to speak through the shadows. When you freeze under criticism or tremble at the thought of rejection, it is not the adult in you reacting. It is the neglected part of your psyche crying out. Abandoning this internal vulnerability allows old wounds to steer your life. It makes you choose the wrong allies and sabotage your own peace. Stoic healing is not a ritual. It is a gesture of philautia, proper self-love. It is allowing yourself to feel without judgment, but leading those feelings with reason. You must be the kind of parent to yourself that you may never have had. Acknowledge the fear, but do not let it drive the chariot. When you begin to lead your internal vulnerability with wisdom, you do not become weak. You become unshakable. You stop reacting to the past and start acting from the present. 9. Eliminate perfectionism disguised as virtue. Perfectionism is not a high standard. It is a psychological noose. It wears the deceptive mask of discipline and refinement. But if you peel back that veneer, you will find its root is not a love of excellence, but a paralyzing fear of judgment. It is the ego's frantic attempt to shield itself from the possibility of being seen as flawed, limited, or, most terrifyingly, ordinary. In the Stoic Forge, we distinguish sharply between arete, the pursuit of virtue and excellence, and the vice of perfectionism. Perfectionism is a form of vanity. It is the belief that unless the output is divine, it is a reflection of a defective character. This belief paralyzes the will. When you demand perfection, the mere thought of producing something imperfectly makes you retreat into the safety of inaction. You revise, you edit, you delay, and you never finish. You delete your labor before any other soul can witness it, not because you have high standards, but because you are protecting your fragile ego from the shame of being seen as a beginner. No man or woman reaches excellence without first having the courage to be clumsy. To be a master, you must first endure the indignity of being a novice. Perfectionism is a trap of the imagination. It keeps you imprisoned within an idealized version of your mind that has no basis in the physical world. It is a refusal to engage with nature, which is inherently messy, iterative, and progressive. True Stoic discipline means you keep moving even when the work is flawed. It means you prioritize the actus, the doing, over the speculum, the image of the result. Perfection demands that you stop unless the result is flawless. Discipline demands that you continue because the effort itself is the reward. One of these forces nurtures growth through the honest acceptance of reality. The other kills motivation before it can even draw breath. Ask yourself this cold question: if I am imperfect today, does my inherent worth vanish? To the Stoic, the answer is an absolute and resounding no. Your worth is not a variable determined by the quality of your output. Your worth resides entirely in the prohairesis, the alignment of your will with reason, and the courage to attempt the task. The output is an indifferent. The attempt is everything. You must learn to show up, fail, correct, and repeat. That is how you face your shadow. You do not erase your flaws. You walk through them until you see yourself clearly. Discipline is the steady hand that continues to carve the stone even when the chisel slips. Perfectionism is the coward who never picks up the tool for fear of making a mark that isn't perfect. Reject the mask. Embrace the labor. Only the man who is willing to be seen failing is capable of eventually succeeding. 10. Eliminate the fear of failure. Perfectionism is merely the anxious child of a much darker progenitor, the fear of failure. To the Stoic, failure has no inherent moral shape. It is not a bad thing, nor is it a stain upon the soul. It is an indifferent event, an external occurrence, that exists entirely outside the jurisdiction of your will. However, in your current state of unmastered reasoning, failure has become a monster. This monster is not born of reality, but of the narratives you weave. You attach a story to every setback, a story that whispers of your inadequacy, your unworthiness, or your permanent defectiveness. You must strip away the adjectives. Wrong does not mean shameful, nor does it mean catastrophic. In the cold clarity of Stoic logic, wrong simply means not yet correct. It is data. It is a report from the front lines of experience telling you that your current method did not yield the intended result. That is all. When you live in fear of failure, you are living like a condemned man walking a tightrope over a bottomless abyss. Because you are terrified of the fall, you stare at the void beneath your feet rather than the goal ahead. You become hypnotized by the possibility of disaster. But the Stoic realizes that the abyss is an illusion created by the ego. Even if you fall, you land on the solid ground of reality, which is exactly where you started. Marcus Aurelius provided the ultimate antidote to this paralysis when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that failure is not a detour, it is the road itself. Failure is the primary and most effective method of Stoic education. It is the laboratory of the soul. Each time you stumble, you are granted a rare and vital opportunity to learn the topography of your own character. You discover exactly where your judgment was weak, where your discipline faltered, and where your preparation was hollow. You learn with mathematical precision your capacity to rise. By repeatedly facing failure without flinching, you achieve the ultimate liberation, the separation of your self-worth from your outcomes. You realize that your value as a rational being is contained entirely in the integrity of your attempt, not in the applause of the finish line. When you finally lose the debilitating fear of being wrong, you gain the supreme freedom to eventually be right. You stop being a spectator of your own life, terrified of a bruise, and you become a practitioner of virtue, tempered by the very hardships you once sought to avoid. As we conclude this systematic deconstruction of your internal obstacles, understand that the path forward is not found in seeking more motivation or inspiration. Those are fleeting emotions, as unreliable as the wind. The path forward is found in the relentless application of these principles. What needs to be removed is not who you are, but the layers of irrationality, social conditioning, and emotional cowardice that have settled upon your reason like dust upon a mirror. Every habit you eliminate, every fear you dismantle, and every false loyalty you execute is an act of clearing the way for the sovereign self to emerge. Subtraction does not make you smaller, it makes you essential. It strips away the noise so that only the signal remains. You do not need to find yourself, you need to build yourself by refusing to be moved by that which is outside your control. Now the instruction is complete. The logic has been laid bare. There is no longer any room for the excuse of ignorance. There is only the choice. Do you have the cold, calculated discipline to take the first step into the void of the unknown, leaving the comfort of your chains behind? Stand tall. Remain sovereign. Act with the weight of eternity.